Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unboxed. So glad that you're joining us today. So we want to talk about survival leaders versus challenge leaders. And the reality of the matter is sometimes leaders have to be in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, the goal is to ensure that everything doesn't fall apart. And we've all been there. As a leader, we've all been in that place where, we're just trying to keep the ship afloat. But on the other hand, when survival becomes the way of leading, it's not just a brief period. And we've seen this in politics. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about politics later, not endorsing parties, but just showing how political leadership shows up. But it's okay to be in survival mode for brief periods, but just like we've seen in politics. If it becomes the way of managing continuously, then it is actually a reflection and showing us some weak areas in our leadership that we need to address. The goal, and here's the goal, everyone. The goal is to become a challenge leader, a leader who faces down obstacles that our organizations face, that we face within our own lives, that develops a clear, articulated path and vision to move forward, and that stands firm on principles. And we especially want to be able to face down challenges when the challenges are internal and involve the rise of emotions within ourselves as well as within our team. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to unbox the difference between survival leaders and challenge leaders. And we're going to help you to become a more mature challenge leader that you were designed to be. Stick around. I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and relationship coach. And welcome to Unboxed, a frank and straightforward conversation about relationships. We're going to talk about family, church, workplace, and all other types of relationships. Join me for the next few moments as we unbox the power and potential of relationships and help you to live your best life. All right, welcome on in, everyone. Welcome on in. So glad to have you here. Do me a favor before we get started. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. That's right. Like, subscribe, and share. And if you're listening to the podcast, please make sure that you check out our website. The address is www.swg-unboxed.org. That's www.swg-unboxed.org. However you want to put it, hyphen or dash, unboxed.org. All right, newsflash. Leaders have it hard on several fronts. It's hard developing a plan and strategies to grow your organizations. Even if you have the most wonderful team, no problems, all the money you've ever wanted, it still is difficult to develop plans and strategies to grow the organization. It's hard finding the right team members that will fit your leadership style as well as the culture of the organization. It's hard coming into a new organization where the team has already been picked for you and then trying to navigate that terrain. It's hard assembling a strong, cohesive team that has synergy, that's clicking on all cylinders. This is just the natural. We're not even talking about where there's problems and challenges. This is just natural difficulties that leaders face, the best of leaders working in the best of organizations. However, leadership can be especially difficult when the challenge is internal, when it's coming from our own team, when it's coming from within our organizations. And so during these times when the challenge is not external, raising money, getting the right building in order to grow your organization, working and partnering and collaborating with other businesses and organizations and things of that nature, expanding and whatnot. Even, putting that aside, when it's most difficult is when the challenge is internal. And during these times, leaders must have a high degree of toleration for pain. And I'm going to talk about what I mean by a high degree of toleration for pain. If leaders cannot tolerate pain, it is doubtful that others on the team will be able to tolerate pain and will be able to grow. And when I think about pain, so let me elaborate on this. When I think about pain, I am talking about your ability to tolerate the pain and the discomfort of others. This is what I really want you to see it, because most of us, ready for this? Most of us can tolerate more pain in our own life then we can tolerate pain in the people that we are in relationship with, that we are close to, that we love. We can tolerate more discomfort and pain for ourselves than we can for them. And I guess a classic example to kind of illustrate that is a parent with its whining child, with their whining child. And so the parent, has no problem standing in line for 2 hours if that need be. It's a little, it's a little annoying. But when the child starts crying, what happens? The parent picks it up and they want to shush the child and comfort the child, because the child's discomfort is actually more difficult to bear than our own discomfort. And so I just use that as an example because I want you to kind of illustrate that. That's understandable when that maternal or paternal instinct kicks in. But we have to really be cautious about it. We have to be cautious about that in the family, but we have to really be cautious about that when we are working inside of our organization. Dr. Edwin Friedman asserted that leaders who cannot tolerate pain create an atmosphere where the weakest, most dependent, and most emotionally driven people will control the entire system. Yeah, that's right. Dr. Edwin Friedman, powerful thinker. He's deceased now, but a powerful thinker around this subject of systems and how, they impact. And I want to say this, even a lot of parents, and we use the word spoiled, even a lot of parents end up caving into their children. I am a classic example of that with my children, which is when they start demonstrating that they are discomforted, that they are, anxious, that they are whatever, I jump into that mode of saying, how can I solve this? How can I alleviate their anxiety in an attempt to alleviate my anxiety? And a lot of times leaders do that. And one of the things that expression that we use in America that's common, it's almost like this is how it's supposed to be. You ready for it? The squeaky wheel is the one that gets the oil. And so we almost encourage people to be the complainers, to be the loudest, to stand out, to push our way to the front, to demand, what we want and what we believe we should have. We almost have developed a culture. And like I said, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You really see this in churches where it's not the person who is, most committed to the mission of the church or committed to the mission of the organization. It's the person who can squeak the loudest. That's the one that gets the attention, because oftentimes leaders cannot tolerate the pain that others are experiencing. Unfortunately, many churches, workplaces, families, and organizations have ultimately organized themselves to accommodate the most immature. In other words, whoever is willing to burn the whole thing down to the ground can control the entire system. Now, today I'm going to talk a little bit about politics, and that's what you see in politics, especially. The congressman, the senator, the person who is willing to be the most outlandish, the most destructive, the most obstructive, the one who is willing to, pound the podium the hardest and shout the person down the most, is the one that unfortunately ends up getting the attention and ends up getting pushed to the front of the line. The person who says, well, I'm standing on my values and I don't care, I'm not going to compromise. That's the one that gets all of the news flash. That's the one that gets on the front pages. That's the one that leads, the nightly news. And so we've almost developed and celebrated that type of culture. But I tell you this much, it is Hades when you have to work with people like that, especially if you do not have that emotional strength to be able to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to tolerate this. This is how I'm going to be. So let me conclude, because I'm going to spend the rest of this week talking about survival leaders versus challenge leaders. What I have described so far, when the leader breaks down and gets nervous and capitulates, I've been discussing the survival leader. The survival leader is safety focused. The safest place for ships is in the harbor. That's what Edwin Friedman said. But he went on to say, but that's not why ships were built. The safest place for a ship is in the harbor, but that's not what, and the safest place for a leader is to try to keep everyone calm and to try to make sure that there's no uprising, that there's no challenges. Thank you, Judy, for your encouragement, that there's no, distress. But That's not what leaders are called for. Leaders are called to be challenge leaders, which on the other hand, challenge leaders are not intimidated by the unknown and the unpredictable. Challenge leaders take mature, thoughtful actions. They risk the applause and the approval of the group for the sake of truth and right. They stay the course. They provide consistent leadership, and they focus on managing themselves. And what I want to say is this right here. That's the type of leaders that we want to be. And I hope that as we travel along in this journey together, that I can share with you some tips and some encouragement that will help you to be more of a challenge leader. And I want to unbox your challenge leadership. I want to unbox the power and the potential of your leadership, unbox the power and the potential of every relationship. Continue to tune back in this week, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Seasoned with Grace, Unboxed also provides healthy relationship training and leadership development for businesses, churches, and community organizations. For a free consultation to discuss your team's needs, please contact us at our website at swg-unboxed.org. That's swg-unboxed.org.